Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is the new account week by week. We're back early. We were going to move to a monthly schedule from a bi-weekly schedule, but we're back after 2 weeks because we hit some milestones. I think what we're going to do is make these videos as they are relevant. So if we hit some milestones, we will be coming out. And on top of that, we have the early account changes to discuss, the Grand Arena Division changes to discuss. There's a number of information that is relevant to these new accounts that we should be addressing in this video. So the topics we are hitting are those early account changes. I was thinking about creating a new account on top of this one to account for those changes, but I think what we'll do is address them in the farming guide that I'm working on because they're fairly limited in scope. I was hoping to see some more, but if we don't see anything additional, I think we don't need to be starting over to address them. Journey guide unlocks. We've hit several characters. I want to discuss what teams I was using, and we might want to do a larger unlock video for these legendary and journey unlocks. Just put them in one video so players aren't looking at these legendary and journey character videos just for the 7-star version, but they can also have a target to shoot for the unlock. Then the Grand Arena teams that we are building, we're now getting that foundation is firm, and we have these teams that we're going to be using moving forward as we move up through Grand Arena divisions. And then we have to discuss the consequences of all these Grand Arena division changes, how that is going to be affecting new accounts, and how I think we need to be strategizing for Division 7 to Division 6, because that is going to be very important. And then we'll wrap up with Conquest. There's a couple teams that overperform at lower gear, and I think they're worth developing and targeting for newer accounts to start seeing some early game progress and changes. Overall, these early game changes are great and are going to be very helpful towards day one players. What they primarily consist of are removing the useless characters you were given at the start of the game for characters who are going to be either immediately helpful towards legendary and journey characters, or are part of high quality later game teams. The biggest ones that are going to be of help are Jedi Knight Anakin, Moff Gideon, and Dark Trooper. And Jedi Knight Anakin was on a more expensive node, and Moff Gideon and Dark Trooper are going to be part of the go-to starting team now. Phoenix are still going to be worth doing. They're probably going to be a fairly good counter to Moff Gideon early on when I was doing my new account playthrough. The Troopers, as they existed when I started 5 or so months ago, struggled against the Phoenix. They didn't have the control or the debuffs necessary to handle the protection recovery and protection up that Phoenix had. I think that is still going to be true at lower levels for Moff Gideon and the Troopers. Next up, I want to point out Anakin here. With the art change, they have removed the scar. I think that basically cements that Anakin is going to be the galactic legend. There's also a number of other very solid arguments. Even though I have my own biases towards wanting Maul, I'm now in the camp that we're seeing fallen Anakin. Hopefully Maul will be the Conquest reward. I will be perfectly happy with that. The other changes announced are some of the early character farms have been changed on the light side, dark side, and Cantina farms. Stormtrooper Han is being moved from the Squad Arena store to the Cantina Battle store. We'll address that in the farming guide video. Some of these matter, some of them don't. The Stormtrooper Han one I would absolutely be farming. That's an improvement. There's so many high quality farms in the Squad Arena store, and there's less so in the Cantina Battle store, so that actually makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more helpful. But some of these other farms, I think I would be going after Moff Gideon, Dark Trooper to start any new account, and some of these other characters are available in other locations, like Ahsoka, I would still be doing out of the Cantina Battle store. Obi-Wan, I think I would do out of the Guild store. So we will address that in a later video. Over the past several weeks, we've unlocked a number of Journey and Legendary characters, and I think it would be helpful to discuss what the minimum unlocks are, because I think the bulk of the information out there is for the 7-star finish, not necessarily what the minimums are to get them unlocked. And I think that's going to be very useful for new accounts to know what to target to just unlock these characters. So Padme we technically did several weeks ago, but we're going to include her now. Kenobi I have here just because I unlocked him partway through week 23 now. He could have been done far earlier if I was in a different guild, but I want to get a more typical performance, show what you can get in these rosters. And CLS and Chewie we unlocked. CLS was week 22, Chewie was just a couple days ago during the beginning of week 23. So for Padme, we used Geos. The new team was not close to ready in terms of credits. You can, with far lower credits, use Geos to unlock Padme. So just blow these guys up. 5-star on Brood Alpha. What this is really all about is waiting for the right RNG to be able to use Spy's big attack twice. The first time gets rid of her protection, the second hit takes her out. And then you need to take out the fish guy so he can't do the revives, then you can clear it. Takes some RNG, but no level 85 characters, a couple level 10s. Sunfac was technically gear 8 when I did him, not gear 9. He's been leveled up since then. CLS, I put a lowish viable teams out for this, but not even a single level 80 character, only 2 level 78 characters. That saves millions of credits. What we're really trying to do is build up this roster and depth strategy where we do not have to level up characters too high because we want to get very deep very quickly. We're going to talk more about that in the Grand Arena planning. And then this team here is what I used to unlock Chewie. Mando did not get to use Disintegrate. He did not survive long enough, but the assist call onto Jango was helpful enough in getting the contract off that it made a big difference. I tried to make Jango as offensive as possible. He was really doing the bulk of the damage and brought as many of them as I could up to 78 to make their basics stronger. I'll show you a quick glance of what we got here. 78 was really so we could put the Omega on the basic because that's the double tap. That is pretty important. The rest of the guys, here's where the abilities were. Fairly minimal. Really, it's the AoE from Boba Fett, the mass assist from Grief Karga, the AoE from Dengar, and the assist call from Mando all help get Jango's contract off quickly. And then the multiple revives from Bounty Hunter Resolve helps make sure that the fragility of some of these characters isn't a big deal. And when the contract goes off for Jango Fett, then a few characters get Bounty Hunter Resolve on top of that. So that adds to the survivability of the team, which allows getting Chewie at a fairly nice low level. And then this last team here, that is the team I used to unlock Falcon. Technically, Boba Fett was a little bit lower when I unlocked it, but maybe more like 75, maybe 70. And Boba Fett, or Bosk, was a little bit lower, but that's where IG-88 and Bosk were. I'll show you the team as well, the fleet itself. And here's the level status of the Bounty Hunter fleet. Only the Houndstooth was at level 85, 78 on IG-88 because he is the one who does the bulk of the damage. You want him stronger. Cad Bane doesn't need to be that strong because really all that matters from him is either landing breach or calling the assist from IG-88, and Slave 1 didn't do anything. And minimum of gear 9 on Bosk is pretty helpful. Although below that, gear 8 and below, the protection recovery that you receive from Bosk isn't really high enough to survive those battles. This was still pretty RNG dependent and annoying, but this was enough to unlock the Falcon. So we're starting to build out a lot of depth, and we are specifically targeting teams for Grand Arena and Conquest, and we need to now be responding and anticipating those Grand Arena division changes. So for Grand Arena, these are the teams I'm currently building out on defense. We have Padme, which is getting close to being ready to go. She's not quite there yet, and I didn't have all these characters ready before the most recent Grand Arena sign up. Some of this was done after we received credits from the May the 4th rewards. Geos that we use to unlock Padme. This Bastila team is what we're currently using, but it's going to be cannibalized after we get Jedi Knight Revan, which I'm hoping to have before the halfway mark, the 6-month mark. Night Sisters and Newt, because they're awesome defensive teams. And we are currently building out an Ewok team for C-3PO so we can have a really good CLS team. And then far on the back burner is Kylo. We aren't operating from a Galactic Legend approach. We are going for a resource approach, and that's what my farming guide is going to be about. I'm less concerned about Galactic Legends, and we are going to be approaching that in the Grand Arena Division planning and our larger strategizing. So on offense, we have a Palpatine team with Vader and Piet. I only have 2 Zetas right now. Vader and Piet got them. Merciless Massacre for obvious reasons. Piet's Emperor Trap because it boosts the damage that Vader is doing. Now we have almost all the CLS team ready to go. We're still building up their abilities and getting them stronger, but we have Chewie now. We got to get him geared up a little bit more, and we're working towards swapping in C-3PO. The Bounty Hunters, we could take Jango, put him with Newt, but right now Jango is a great leader. He's also a slightly better leader than Bosk, and he doesn't need the Zeta to be a good leader. So I'm going to avoid putting that Bosk Zeta on, and if you don't have that Bosk Zeta, you should be running Jango lead. We could swap out Mando for Dengar, but I like the Resolve and I like the Disintegrate. We'll see how that goes, but there's a reason we have them on offense right now. It's because we don't have a lot of offensive depth, and these are also candidate for swapping to defense at a later date. I didn't have Moff Gideon from the Marquee event. The new account wasn't developed far enough at that point, but we have him now from the early game changes. We have a decent trooper team started, but I'm going to start now working on Death Trooper, Dark Trooper, and Moff Gideon to pair with the other troopers that we already have. Stormtrooper would be better here, but I just really like how Stormtrooper pairs with Piet. But I absolutely want a good Moff Gideon team. And the last is Bad Batch. I'm betting on these guys being awesome at low stars, at least at lower levels in the game. We were already starting to shift towards clones. Now I'm going to go with a Bad Batch clone plus Rex and 5s instead of building out a 501st set. I can't quite farm Shaak Ti yet, but as soon as I can, Shaak Ti will be divvied up amongst the clones somehow. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to approach it. This table here shows the new and old Grand Arena divisions. Right now I'm in Division 8 at a little over 1 million GP. After the changes occur, I'm going to drop down to Division 10. That's not a huge change or a huge concern. What we need to be aware of, though, is as we approach Division 7, that's when we'll probably start seeing Galactic Legends in Grand Arena. And with that few teams set on defense, that could shut you down and where you don't have a solution and you can't beat them with your depth. The old way to handle these teams was your depth would allow you to clear what teams you could, and your opponent usually wouldn't have the depth necessary to beat your defense. That may or may not be true anymore. But what we want to plan for is here, the change to Division 6. That is kind of outrageous, and it may be subject to change after they go through a cycle with these new Grand Arena divisions. But what you're looking at here is when you go from Division 7 to Division 6, with the new layout, you're going to need 2 additional teams on defense, which means at least 2 additional teams on offense, which means you are jumping from 8 teams that you need in Grand Arena to needing 12. That is gigantic, and we need to prepare for that change, otherwise we are going to get crushed. So the strategy that I am approaching Grand Arena and approaching developing my roster is building out that depth as quickly as possible so that when we hit that change, we aren't shocked and surprised by it. So we're going to approach that Grand Arena change the same way that we do on my main account, in the same way that I've been recommending on this new account, but just a new version of that. I've always been talking about roster depth. I've always been talking about being efficient with resources and optimizing that resource use. So in this instance, instead of like a Gear 11 where I've made that my standard level floor for my main roster, on this account that's going to be more like Gear 8 is going to be that floor where I'm going to be bringing characters up before I start looking at bringing them up in bulk to higher levels. Now there's going to be key characters obviously that are going to go higher. The Geos are already higher than that. Vader is already higher than that. But the other thing I'm going to do to add on top of that is level 80. I'm not going to be bringing very many characters above level 80, and that is because the cost it takes, similarly to the cost it takes to take a character from Gear 11 to Gear 12, is a bunch of gear where you could take multiple characters up to Gear 11 for the cost of a character to Gear 12. The cost it takes to take a character from level 80 to 85 is almost the same as taking a character from level 1 to level 80. So by focusing on level 80, we are going to be able to take multiple characters up to that floor and get more of the roster at a usable level. The byproduct of that is our GP is going to be a little bit lower. Some of these teams might not be as good, but the trade-off in depth is going to win out over that. The way that I've been playing, we've already been winning all of the Grand Arenas. We've only dropped one, and we ended up finishing the last Grand Arena season at level. We finished 58 overall in Division 9, losing one battle, hitting Kyber in Grand Arena, the way that we've been playing, building out strength and teams. Because what we are really looking for is to not overinvest and to switch from high quality team to high quality team as quickly as possible. And I was showing that with the teams we've been building up for Grand Arena defense and offense, where instead of over-investing in this Empire team, getting everybody to level 80 or level 85, putting more gear on them, putting more ability mats on them, and making like one really good team, instead we're trying to make several decent teams. So we want to get Padme up and running as quick as possible. We want CLS up and running as quick as possible. Bounty hunters paired with them. We're going to have a solid Ewok team fairly soon, solid Night Sister and Newt teams, and we are already farming towards Jedi Knight Revan and Darth Revan simultaneously, where we have a lot of good farming progress towards both Revans. We're using the journey guide to get crystals and credits and gear for these events. There's a lot of great resources in there, and we are moving as quickly as we can. We technically have, because of double drops, we've hit the next threshold to attempt the next tier on Jedi Knight Revan and get even more resources. I just don't have the credits right now to bring all these guys up to 5 stars. But that is how we are going to be approaching the Grand Arena changes, is we are going to build out that depth as quickly as possible by going after level 80, which will allow us to maximize our credits and get more characters up to level 80. Then from there we will start taking characters from 80 to 85. And that's subject to change. After several weeks, we may see that things aren't working out as well. In Squad Arena right now, things are fine. We're going to switch to CLS as soon as he's ready. Right now, we're also saving Zetas. Let me show you where my Zeta count is. We're not just rushing to put them on. We're waiting to put on the best possible ones. I'm going to put a list together of my 10 favorite beginning Zetas. That's not going to be what you think. So we already have 74. We could put 3 more on right now if we had the purple ability mats. That's actually what's holding us back on applying this stuff more frequently on top of our level. But things like Bastila, we're not going to throw that on. Palpatine, not going to do it. Kylo, not going to do it. All those really nice leadership Zetas that I would have been recommending beforehand. Those teams expire before you need them. Like that Bastila Zeta, we aren't going to be without Jedi Knight Revan for too much longer. Giving Bastila her Zeta just doesn't make sense anymore. Same thing with Palpatine. We're already switching away from using Palpatine. That leadership Zeta, not good enough. So those are the teams that we are building out for Grand Arena for our long-term planning, but that's also going to help us prepare for Conquest. And these teams specifically are what we are looking to build out for Conquest because of how they overperform in that game mode. So Palpatine with Vader and Piet. Vader is going to be doing all the work. Piet boosts all that damage, and Stormtrooper is going to tank, and Palp's lead is going to be generating a bunch of turn meter. Geos just have a ridiculous amount of sustain. There's a number of teams that they can handle at lower levels. The Imperial Troopers with Moff Gideon, they hugely overperform. I'll make a video about all this stuff in the future, but like these Moff Gideon, my Gear 11 ones on my main account are able to clear Sector 5 teams, like Relic 8 hard mode Sector 5 teams. Same kind of deal with Night Sisters, just with one relic on Daka and the right Zetas on Daka and on Ventress. They can clear a ton of great teams. And then Rebels with CLS, they clear a ton of teams in Conquest as well. And they also help with critical feats and with advantage feats. They are another great team. But one thing I want to say to new players, even if your teams aren't really ready to handle much of Conquest, which my roster is not ready to do, that doesn't mean to just quit on it. You can use feats in this game mode to work towards some of the resources in Conquest. Just because you can't clear too many of the sectors doesn't mean that you shouldn't at least repeat some of these nodes until you hit some of those reward thresholds. So right now, I can only clear this first node, but I'm still working towards these resources here. It doesn't take much to hit 15. We just need to hit one more feat and we're gonna get there. So exploit what you can to get what resources you can. At this point in the game, every single one counts. So that is the new account, week 22 and a half. We are working towards C-3PO. We're working towards a lowish viable teams on the Endor escalation event. And if you guys are interested in a video about the minimums on the unlocks, let me know and I will put that together. It's something that I think would be useful and interesting, but I'm not sure if it's something that players actually look for. And the bulk of the player base, it's just not relevant to. So let me know if that interests you guys, and I will put it out there. Thank you, everyone. This has been Still Plays. Be safe out there and be excellent to each other.